Hello, and welcome to our webinar this evening, Finding Our Path, Preteen Sexuality for Parents. My name is Nicole Imgrund, and I am the owner and director of River's Edge Counseling Center. The webinar this evening is part of a series of webinars that we have called Wellness Matters, and we host 2 or 3 of them every month. If you look at our website, we have over 50 of them already on our blog if you would like to look at some of our past webinars. This webinar is also being recorded, and so if you would like to review some of the information or share it with anyone else at another time, we'll be putting it up on our website. The names of the participants and also your video and your mic is not visible, not turned on. But if you have any questions for us during the presentation, I will be monitoring the chat. You can also put them in the Q&A. Christine's presentation will be 30 or 45 minutes, which will leave us some time at the end for some questions with you. I want to share with you a little bit more about our facilitator today. Christine Crocker is a registered psychologist trained in marriage and family therapy. She believes that relationships are central to the health and well-being of individuals, families, and communities. An individual always functions and grows within a system, whether as a member of a couple, family, or group. Individual goals and visions are best understood and pursued within this broad framework. In counseling, Christine believes that each person is encouraged and should be to understand their unique situation and reach for attainable goals. Together, client and therapist work towards making changes needed for a better life. Christine has been providing services to families, couples, and individuals since 2007, both in private practice and for agencies. She's been part of the River's Edge team since 2014, which I am so grateful for, and works tirelessly for the families and individuals that she sees in our practice too. So welcome to all of you. We're just so happy to have you with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over for now to you, Christine.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad that we've got you here for this evening. And I think I always say this whenever I start something. I hope today can be helpful. Take what you need and toss out what you don't. I'm going to share what I've got to offer today, but make sure you take out of this what you need from today. So I'm going to share my screen, and that always takes me a bit of time. So I'm going to start my PowerPoint. And so welcome. Like Nicole said, my name is Christine Crocker, and here we're talking about finding our path with regards to preteen sexuality. Oh, is it not going to let me advance? There we go. Oh, now I advanced too many. Drat! There we go. Start my slides. So why this webinar? So I'll tell you why I have chosen to do this webinar. I'm super passionate about normalizing sex and sexuality. I think life should be fun and normal. And I grew up in a household where it wasn't shamed and it was quite open. I come from a Norwegian and Scandinavian background. And if you know much about that, you just get changed in the change room and you take care of your business, and bodies are just bodies and it's not that big of a deal. So I'm super passionate about normalizing our bodies, sex and sexuality. And so knowing this about me, I've got friends that say, Christine, my kids are getting older. Can you teach them about their sex and their body? And I'm like, of course, yeah, I can absolutely do that to you. And the benefit is they're going to get reliable information, but it's information from me. And what is your family's source of truth? So the downside is I want you to be their source of your kiddo's truth. Of course, we can get the information from other places like me, but today, why I'm really offering this webinar is I hope we can really walk the journey together as parents on how to be the source of our kids' truth with regards to this information and this really vast topic. So this is what we're going to cover today. First, why don't we talk to our kids? Why we want to talk to our kids about sex and sexuality, the how to and the when to. I'm going to encourage everyone some personal reflection because a lot of this is about your personal values that you want to teach and support your family to have. So I'm going to encourage some reflection about your beliefs and your values around sex and sexuality. We're going to talk about media and the influences of media and how that influences your kids and what you can do about it or how to have those conversations around. By the end, I hope you can walk out with a better understanding of your sexual development generally in teens, these preteens, what's going on in their bodies. We're going to talk about consent. We're going to talk about body safety rules, some healthy relationships, gender, and I'm going to leave you with some resources. So, why don't we talk to our kids about sex and sexuality? I don't know about you, but we may or may not have a role model on how to do this. It's often a very taboo subject in society. No, we don't want to talk about that. It's sometimes a weird or uncomfortable subject, depending on what the topic is or who we're around. I might not talk to my kids because I don't want to make my kid uncomfortable. I don't want to make me uncomfortable. I have so much uncomfortableness in my world. It's hard for me to push through my uncomfortableness because as adults, adulting is hard. There's so much uncomfortableness that we have to push through. And there's a lot of uncomfortableness we do put on our kids because that's how we learn, grow, and change. What if my child is the alternative gender? So I'm a girl, I'm a mom, and I have boys. Well, I don't have those parts. I can't talk to them about that. Or vice versa, I'm a dad and I have girls. I don't have those parts. Sometimes we have knowledge gaps, right? What is the skills? What is the knowledge? What do I know? What do I not know? Because I hope by the end of our topic today, you can see how broad the information that contributes to this topic. And I get it. We often don't know what we don't know and how broad and complex this topic is. Parents often have a worry. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to talk about the wrong thing. Of course, we all have worries about being the best parent. And I just want to reassure you that I hope we can have some knowledge and skills so I can help you on your path. Oh, I don't need to talk to my kids. The school or the internet. Yeah, school will teach them. The internet, the schoolyard, I don't have to. They probably already know it anyway. So those are the why don'ts that we often have in our vernacular of why we haven't done this yet. So here I am, that's me. Here, we do want to talk to our kids about sex and sexuality. And I'll tell you why. I, as a parent, want to be that reliable source of the who, the what, the when, where, and why for my kids. I want to be that reliable source of information. I want to be that person for comfort of weird or difficult things. I want to be the source of values because as we talk today, we'll see how much values, how many of our values are really woven into this topic. I want you to be your child's inner voice that guides them. I want that little voice on my kid's shoulder saying, psst, remember when we talked about that? Or have you considered? Or those kind of things. I want to be that inner voice that guides my child. I want to normalize talking about sex and sexuality. Think of the health wheel, right? All of those things that are involved in our health. There's eating, sleeping, exercise, education, learning, friends, family, sex and sexuality. Spirituality. There's so many things that are involved in our gender health wheel that I want to normalize talking about everything from spirituality to what we're eating today, sleeping, exercise. It's part of a healthy human experience. I want us to help build a healthy, conscious relationship for our children around sex and sexuality. And I say conscious, intentional, thoughtful. I want to be the safe place for my kid to talk about all things, easy and difficult. And if I do a better job of this than my parents did, I don't want to repeat the past, right? Everyone's got a different story of how their parents may or may not have, talked about sex and sexuality. Some people might have some nuggets. Yeah, it was really helpful when, or like it so wasn't helpful when, or some story in between that we can be intentional and supportive of our kids with regards to all of their health. And this is one of the things I hope sticks with everyone, because I'm going to say it more than once. The more my kids have knowledge around sex and sexuality, it increases the delay of that youth's first sexual experience. So let me say that again. The more they know, the longer they delay in having their first sexual experience. Okay, so how do I do this, Christine? No, really, how do I do this? So I've got some catchphrases that are some of my favorites. Be brief, be bright, be gone. Meaning, don't have that long, drawn out lecture like, oh my God, that was 2 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. No, we want to be all over with the information. We want to popcorn all over with the information versus that one time and done. This isn't a one time and we're done with this conversation. We're going to be brief, be bright, be gone, and have the information all over at different times. And I like to use those natural teaching moments. So my kids might come with questions. Sometimes it's beautiful around those times at school, that consent form or that information form comes from my elementary school kiddo saying, this is what we're talking about, this is the subject. Do they have any questions? What did you talk about today? What do you think or feel? What happened in the classroom when we talked about penises and vaginas? Was it uncomfortable? Did everyone giggle? So again, those natural teaching moments that do come with our societal school age kids. I also like it when watching a movie or watching something, like who hasn't been in a movie with their kids and then in comes some sort of love scene, or, one of the characters is in a pretty scantily blah, blah outfit. And we can insert, that teachable moment. Ooh, that couple must be enjoying their bodies and both agreeing to talking about consent. And we could insert, I hope, a knowledge nugget. I hope they're using protection. I hope they're both consenting, or it looks like they both want to be there. In our house, we wait until marriage, or ooh, at our house, we believe in not having sex before marriage. Like whatever value information nugget fits for you and your family. How else to do this is resources and books. I'm a total nerd. Books, wonderful books. Videos, and there's so many videos on the internet, like I'm overwhelmed with how many things I could spend searching in an afternoon. So if we like resources, books, leave them laying around. Put them where they can flip through them at their leisure. Or do I spend time and go through a couple pages and go, have we talked about this enough? Yeah, be brief, be bright, be gone. And have a instructional conversation of a few pages at a time. Answer questions honestly. So I don't know, when your kids ask you, Mom, like this happened at school today. If I can answer it honestly, awesome. If I can't, can I get back to you on that? Or can I actually talk to Dad? Or maybe we're in a blended family and I'm the stepmom and I might want to be mindful of a value statement I might be sharing. Or my favorite question is, well, what do you know about that? How did you make you feel? So get to know what they have to know about that question, and take some time to think about it. Because often if our kids have a question, I need to kind of know why they're asking, what do they know about it already? And what do they really need from me? And then I talk about it with a mom or a dad or a co-partner, or whoever's in our lives who can help me with these parenting value statements. Tips on having the talk. One of the first things is explore that resistance and that discomfort or my ambivalence. Like I talked to all those whys, I haven't gotten to it yet. When I know what's going on for me, it really helps me overcome what's going on for me. Are my kids too young? And of course, my belief is I don't think they're too young. They're not too young to learn about noses and elbows. Are they too young to learn about the proper labeling of their body parts? The kids don't want to talk about this. Well, in our family, my kids learn to talk about it because they don't want to not talk about it. It's likely my discomfort. This is embarrassing, or where do we start? For sure. And remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. Where do we start? It's small steps, not big ones. Remember, it's popcorn all over a lifetime. Because I'm going to talk to my kids about labeling their body parts, talk about consent and safety, but I'm also going to talk about them about relationships and whether that's consensual or abuse. And even when I become a mature adult, I'm still having conversations with my mom or dad, like, what's it like to be in a marriage? And not know if I'm that open to talk about what sex or sexuality like are with my parents, but what's it like in marriage and what does it mean? What are those values? So, I mean, this is a lifespan of growth and skill that I hope I can have a relationship with my kids. So, who has this talk? Well, sometimes it's our biological parents. Sometimes in step families, there might be a step parent who's a nurse or someone who has a more comfort level 4. Sometimes a mature older sibling can be an asset, aunts or uncles. It's really who is that safe 5 person that's in that kid's wheelhouse of who is that safe person do I talk to about lots of things. Is that grandma? Is an aunt and uncle, mom and dad? Who are those safe people in your kiddo's life? Also depends on your communication style. I'm a talker. I like to talk. So I have to be super mindful to ask questions and not talk. Or maybe you're not a talker. So maybe you need to use more of those resources like books and videos that help get things going. So then we can breed a conversation. So also know your own personal communication style, what's helpful for you and also for your kid. What's their communication style? I also like to use examples for popular media or community figures. So for example, I think, I don't know, pick a red carpet event and I'm like, ooh, that's a beautiful risque outfit. Wow, like that's really gorgeous. And her wearing that doesn't mean that she wants it. Women are able to wear and express their bodies. So are men. Does that mean, oh, look at that person is a female wearing male clothing? That's really beautiful. Or, like think of sex, sexuality, value statements, who I am as a person, who I want to be as a person. What are those things? It's so much in our media. And so those natural examples in our popular media are sometimes those places to have those natural teaching moments. More tips on having the talk. The more you know, the more they know. The more they know, the better choices that they make. I always think access to technology. This is another thing that I'm so interested about in the world. We're just in an era that our kids' brains are different than the era I grew up in. Every generation says that. But their access to technology, internet safety is a big piece of this. And we'll get to that further about those access to technology. Do I have safety features? Do they have restricted or controls? Do I monitor how much they're on their devices? Where are they on their devices? Is this in their bedroom in a private place? Are phones out of the bedrooms in the nighttime so they can sleep? Do they have the opportunity to take a inappropriate naked selfie? Or are they most of the time in a public area, like a living room or somewhere versus a bedroom using their devices? Again, there's no right or wrong. It's just conversations or things to consider as we explore further what our kids are exposed to. Other tips on having the talk: be an active listener. This is the time to have our ears on and remember, be brief, be bright, be gone, versus that long talk. No one likes to be preached and teached to. Normalize feelings as much as you can. I always think I like to name to tame my own feelings. Mom's feeling a little bit nervous about this. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about this. Do you want to talk about this? Well, mom, yeah, it is kind of weird, but I know it's really important, right? So again, we normalize those feelings. I can express them and I can validate, wow, well, thanks. That's really great that you think this is important. And I know sometimes it's different or weird to talk about this. Ready or not, these age and stage of our kids is happening. They're growing and changing. And it was just a reflection with some friends of mine recently. They were like, oh, our kiddos are getting older. I wish I was back to worrying about diaper rash and not who they're texting and who's coming over, boys and girls, and how this all is. My point is, ready or not, this is coming. So this is the time for personal reflection. So get comfortable and think, what do I personally think about sex, sexuality, abstinence, birth control? What kind of feelings come up for you? What are my current cultural beliefs about teen sexuality? What are my current beliefs about gender or gender fluidity? What are my fears about this topic? So my favorite is to use a scaling question. 1, whew, like, whoa, like I'm super fearful of this topic. 10, Christine, I think I could teach this with you, right? 10, I feel super confident. 0, whew, those topics are super scary for me. So take a minute and think where that confidence scale is. 10, I'm feeling really confident. 1, I'm not feeling very confident. Where would you rate yourself? So say you rate yourself at a 5. Awesome. Maybe lower, maybe higher. Now think, okay, here I'm at a 5. Why am I at that number? What is it going to take to move me to a 6? What's it going to take to move to a 6.5? Because that's how we learn and grow as parents. We're not moving from a 0 to a 10. We take it step by step in small steps. So thank you so much for coming to spend your time with me today. And I hope we can find this helpful to help you make those small steps in your family for your own personal well-being and to help your kids have a better relationship with their bodies. Media and technology. Whew. What are our kids exposed to and what messages are they receiving? What do they have access to on the internet? So this is the scary thing that makes my heart go tight and my tummy go flip-flop, that 1 out of 10 kids under 10 have been exposed to pornography. And of course, that's the big stuff, right? Like who can't, like, I mean, I can go into Google and type in boo and I'm gonna get boobs, or like, it's just so readily available, access to the internet to have access to those big stuff like pornography. But I even think of the other things, like if they're on TikTok, YouTube, all those other social media platforms, there's just so much data out there, either about eating disorders or little, big body shaming. Like there's just so much information out there. How are our kids making sense of it all? Because we see lots of things in the media about teens. Is it about relationships? Is it about social drama? Is it about pregnancy? Expressing myself, who am I? My gender expression, who am I attracted to? LGBTQ, things are in schools far more prevalent. There's lots of struggles out there at this really tough stage. So how can I help my kids with their struggle? How can I help them make sense of these images, what they see and ingest from the media? So, like if I was selling houses, I'd say location, 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 but I'm not selling houses. I'm a psychologist. I'm selling connection, connection, connection. It's about being with our kids, connecting with them in be brief, be bright, be gone. It's not always about the volume of time. It's just that we spend time, right? I had another author and they said, did you spend that 5 minutes in the morning, that 5 minutes after school, 5 minutes before bed? Did you have that real time to say, hey, what up? How's it doing? Or even just be. And when we're with our kids, they say things if we just give them the opportunity to. So if they don't talk, we can also have those connection conversations. Hey, so I just saw this on a media platform. Like, what do you think? Or, I heard some other people talking about this. Have you ever talked about it on the schoolyard? Like, what do you know about this? Do you and your friends talk about consent? Do you even know what consent is? Do you and your friends talk about, good touch, bad touch? I also like to create a culture of watching media platforms together, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, that kind of thing. We do have smart TVs, or can I just sit in the same room with my kids? We're all on some social media platform. It's a new way in the world. And I'll be like, hey, did you see this cat or dog? And then, hey, did you see this about something else, right? I also ask what they're watching. Hey, that was something funny, or was there something new or anything shocking today or something that you didn't like? Have them share what they're watching or forward what they like or don't like. I know for myself, my kids send me more like the cat videos and the funny stuff, or versus the things they don't like. But like I said, connection, connection, connection. We're building that relationship and that dialogue with our families. Check out those platforms yourself. Do you know what they're watching? Are you looking in their browsing history? What are they ingesting and what are our kids exposed to? And this is just a metaphor that I really speaks to me. And so dogs versus cats. And so the metaphor is that our younger kids are like dogs. I'm not saying they are dogs, but they're like dogs. When you walk in the house and the dog greets you at the door, it wants to be loyal, it wants to be on you, and it wants to be with you, it loves you, thinks you're awesome. So that's the elementary school kids or the younger kids. That age and stage is like a puppy or a dog. Structure, a sense of security and mastery, and parents building expectations is what that age and stage needs. And then they turn into tweens. It kind of depends on your kid. Everyone, changes in these stages differently. But I think pre-tween or teen for those older kids are cats. So when you walk in the front door with the cat's like, hello, what have you done for me lately? Or have you fed me? And it doesn't mean cats and dogs don't both need love and affection. It just means that we treat them differently as their caregivers. So the age and stage for a teenager tween cat is some shared communication and goals, and their job is to test expectations. That's entirely their job. So they all need connection, just in different ways. And why I use this metaphor is, again, am I a better cat owner or a better dog owner? And is my kid a dog or a cat? And what are they needing for information and how we're going to ingest this? Are they age and stage of security, mastery, expectations? Or are they more the testing expectations, shared communication goals? And it doesn't always mean the age of your kid. You can just tell, like, when they have that cat-like behavior or they're more puppy or doggish. So again, it just helps you know your personal style, what works best for you, and then also the age and stage and style of your kiddo and how to help them ingest this information. The age of technology and sexting. And again, this makes my tummy go flip-flop and my heart go tight. I don't know if we all know, but the term sexting refers to the sharing of nude or semi-nude or sexually provocative photos or messages via mobile phones or apps. Okay, so we all know there's various causes for the act of sexting. There's often double standards or gender norms. We've all heard of possibly a dick pic, or send me a picture of your boobs, that there's even emojis that you can use specifically to request that. There's social norms and peer pressure. It's not if, it's when our kids are exposed to this. And the possible consequences. I mean, I share a media image of myself that's possibly semi-nude or provocative. Who knows where it's going to go? But mom, like, whatever, I know my friends and I can trust him. He's my boyfriend. Whether it's a boyfriend from like grade 6 or grade 5, whatever boyfriend means, or when they get older, those possible consequences of that media image being out there, and then legal implications. What does that mean? Moms and dads get involved, and how do I want to share my body? So my tips for parents is think of those characteristics of what's a healthy relationship. We're going to teach and model healthy boundaries and emotional supports. So often I'll take a picture and I'll say, hey, I would like to post this on Facebook. It's your first day of school picture. Is that okay? And if they say no, no means no. Or can I send a picture, just it was your first day of school at the house, or what would that look like for you that would make you feel safe? So in essence, I'm teaching them what happens with media images, or images that go into media, and their consent for that. And then teaching grandmas or other people to talk about what I do with a picture, or what I might offer, and how to get consent for that. Prepare our kids for peer pressure. Yeah, like no means no, and no, I don't really like that, or I can change my mind, or yes now and maybe no later. That prepare for that peer pressure. A statement that I came across that super sticks for me is don't be mean, keep it clean. So with social media or just being on the internet, don't be mean. Talk to your friends or other people like you would for yourself, but also keep it clean. And keep it clean in the fact that if you share an image, you should be happy to share it with your mom, your dad, or grandma, grandpa, whoever that might be, that you'd be proud of seeing that image out in the world. All right, let's move on to some knowledge of puberty and sexual development. So this tells you how many complex things are involved in as we change in our bodies. So who we learn to be is on the one side, the relationships, the way people act with one another, sexual activity, how we express our sexual activities, that kissing, touching, intercourse, the communication, how we connect and share information, how we socialize, that learned behavior, customs, attitudes that are available in our community and culture, my self-image, how a person sees themselves, including their personality, their appearance, what are their values. And then the other side is who we are by nature. How did that kid pop out? Are they introvert? Is they an extrovert? What's their gender identity, their gender expression, their sexual orientation, and their biological sex. Who are we by nature? And then on the bottom, we've got our experiences, what's happened to them, what they've been exposed to, their personal experiences, and on the top, values. As you can see, that collection of what's important to us, our set of beliefs and how things are, which are very personal to both your family as well as your kiddos as they are, moving to that cat stage. That's their job, is to kind of storm and norm and find out those family values. So those stages of development, these preteens, it's my world versus their world. And that's where those preteens are still like boys and girls, sometimes those gender divisions. They're just starting to get those physical changes of puberty and that brain development, the development and exploration of sense of self and self-identity, just maybe trying on, matching their clothes or not matching their clothes, or deciding what kind of personality they want to show. There's that increased need for privacy. Yeah, mom, this is private. Please don't come in. And then we go into that teen stage of development. Those physical changes, of course, continue. The increased interest for romantic relationships and increased interest in exploration related to that brain development. Like I said, they turn into those cats, and their job is to challenge those norms and that struggle for independence. And then into early brain development. And why I put that here is our brains don't fully develop until we're 25. And that's where, from those early adulthood, that exploration of true personal values happens for our kids, that I hope we can still be part of. And then here is the actual, preteen development from ages 10 to 12. So of course, those physical things, enter puberty, growing breasts, pubic hair, facial hair, growth spurts, weight gain, menstruation. And the onset of menstruation is really dropping as a society evolves. They're more cognitive, they're more independent, that sense of responsibility. They kind of understand the actions and the consequences. The sexual, they're still mainly close with those of the same sex, and masturbation is beginning to happen at this stage, and sometimes even orgasm. Social, of course, our peer influence and self-image at this age exposes close and more complex peer relationships. Peer pressure is more prevalent. And then those emotional changes. And I always say empathy. And empathy is a learned trait. Parents will come to me and say, my kid's not very empathetic. I said, yeah, that's normal. Because empathy is a trained and learned skill, just like bike riding and learning to read. Learning how to express your feelings, thoughts, and manage those feelings, developing personal values, beliefs, and identity, it is a muscle. And it's a muscle that I hope we're going to continue to do together after this seminar. Consent. So what I have is I have a video. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but it's a video about consent with regards to tea. It's a little playfully serious, seriously playful, and it's the clean version. So there's lots of other versions on the internet. So I'm just going to stop my share. And Nicole, I'm going to make sure I share the video for teen consent. And I think I have to optimize the video settings. Yes, I'm going to optimize the video settings. Isn't that it? Like when I go to share it, right? So it has the sound.
I think you did okay. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Optimize for videos and share sound. Sounds good. So can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Sounds great. So this is a little 2-minute and 49-second video.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes, please. That's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, but you wanted tea last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, but you wanted tea last night. But if you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
So let's just make sure we stop that.
Waiters always look at me and think,
So playfully serious, but seriously playful, and kind of makes the point that when we want it, we may want, and when we don't, we won't. And it's okay, we can change our mind. So is this screen still shared, Nicole? Yeah, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to reshare. Yeah, I think it didn't work. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. So let's see, it should go to my presentation on number 21 here. No, it didn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So after that video, I just want to further talk about understanding consent. Because consent is permission for something to happen or agreement to something. Just like I said, I need to give consent to have my media image shared to someone else. And sexual consent is that voluntary agreement for both partners to take part in sexual activity, which includes kissing, touching, penetration, etc. The actual age of consent is 16, unless kids are of a similar age and not in a position of trust or authority. And I got this from someone else. Can you talk about what you want to consent for? And if you can't, are you really ready to consent, either for that kissing, touching, or penetration? Really, we just can't make assumptions about other people. And I think it's just so lovely to have these conversations that are weird and uncomfortable, goofy and true with both our boys and our girls, because our girls want to consent and don't want to be forcing anyone to have tea, and neither do our boys. They want to consent or force anyone to do anything that they don't want to. So again, I kind of have that rule of thumb. If you haven't talked about it and you're not ready to talk about it, I'm not sure we are ready to consent about something. Let's go to the next slide here. Why is it not going to the next slide? Consent must be really important, okay? See if I can share my slide again. There we go. This video minimize to optimize the full screen. Sure. There we go. So here's some examples of asking and refusing consent. Is it okay if I, would you like to, can we talk about that? Is this okay? Are you comfortable? Do you want to stop? Stop. No, not now. I don't want to. I'm not ready. I want to go home. Can we talk about this later? Or even pushing the other person away. Honestly, as goofy as it may sound, but sometimes practicing these words and giving our kids the chutzpah and the ability to say no, not now, I don't want it, I'm not ready. Even if they didn't want a high five or a hug from grandma, or I'm not ready for it this moment. Like, it's so tricky. Who hasn't already forced their kid to hug grandma who they haven't seen in a really long time? You know, like I'm more mindful of that, you know, encouraging our kids to say what they like, what they don't like. And it's okay if, is it okay if grandma gives you a hug, or would you rather have a high five? Maybe give some guided choices, right? You know, at the beginning of when we see grandma, if we haven't seen her in a really long time, or maybe at the end, is it okay? You want to give grandma a high five, a wave, or a hug? You know, kind of those guided choices, and give them that choice that I'm not ready, or no, not now, or what works for them. Body safety rules. And again, I always think of the stage of development. Is this that really young kiddo, or is that tween turning teen? And so some of those body safety rules that I really like, of course, my body is my body and it belongs to me. I can say no if I don't want to kiss or hug someone. I can give them a high five, or I can blow them a kiss, and I can make choices about my body. And I think that safety network that I mentioned before, who are those 5 adults I can trust and tell anything, and they're going to really believe me when I feel worried, scared, or unsure? Who is that? Is that me, dad, mom, grandma, whoever that is? And who are those people that I can tell my early warning signs? If I feel frightened, unsafe, or I'm sweaty, or I get sick tummy, or my head or heart feels tight, wow, I just know my body feels uncomfortable. Those are warning signs. Please tell me when you have those early warning signs in your body. Secrets. We should never keep secrets that make us feel bad or uncomfortable. If someone asks me to keep a secret that makes me feel bad or unsafe, please tell an adult or my safety network right away. Private parts. I just love the bathing suit analogy. Where my bathing suit are those my private parts. I always call my private parts by their correct names. No one can touch my private parts. No one can ask me to touch their private parts, and no one should show me a picture of their private parts or what might happen. And if I do feel that way, I'm going to tell someone in that safety network that I have. I do love this as a metaphor and something to consider. Who are those people in my purple private circle? I hope that I'm a parent and I'm in that circle with the kid, that I can tell those 5 people that might tell, those really private things to. And then who's the people in the blue hug circle? So maybe it is a grandma, but I don't tell her my private things, but I do hug them. Or who's in my faraway hug circle? Well, that might be Aunt Susie. I only see her at Thanksgiving. It's maybe not as often. It's maybe a faraway hug. Or maybe the yellow people in my circle. That's kind of like the neighbor. I kind of know their name, not really. We just wave each other in the spring when the summer comes. And the orange are my community helpers. So those are police, firemen, doctors, maybe your psychologist or social worker. And then that red stranger's place. So who are those different circles of support? Who are those people in those circles of support? And then also, where do I share my body at those different places, right? Like I might be at the pool and see my neighbor and do a wave to my neighbor, but I also might see them at the pool in the change room. So again, I use this as you can just identify those different circles of support and find who are in those different circles so we can help identify those 5 people that I'm going to tell those warning signs to when someone does something inappropriate with my bathing suit parts, my private parts, or when there's times that I feel uncomfortable. Dating and healthy relationships. I know we're preteen, but it comes up so quick. And what are types of relationships that are healthy, unhealthy, or abusive? And I just even say healthy relationships, Susie was a really good friend of yours yesterday, but today she seems like she's not making some really good choices. Does that impact your relationship with her? So we're really talking about relationships in general, and as they may go into more intimate interests of relationships. And how do we know? What are some characteristics of a good friend and not so good friend? And we share our experiences as hopefully we do some social coaching as we kind of unpack this navigation of social experience. And what are some role models of healthy relationships, whether I see that in the media or out in the world? Again, we're going to do that social coaching to talk about what's a trustful and honest and caring relationship. So gender, sex, and sexual identity. This is just, again, everyone's like, oh, do we need to talk about it? I'm like, yeah, we do, because it is just so beautifully far more open in our society than it was, when we were younger at my age and stage. And so again, having a comfort and awareness to talk about this is important. So this is one of my favorite infographics. It's called the Gender Unicorn, and it's from this website, transstudent.org-gender. Some people say to me, oh, I'm so confused. Like, what is it? What's gender identity? What's expression? What's the sex assigned at birth? I don't understand. Can I be differently physically attracted than emotionally attracted? So this is just a beautiful graphic that literally talks about that gender identity is like how I see myself in the rainbow. Do I see my gender as female, woman, male, man, or other genders? And then that gender expression is that beautiful green bubble. How do I want to express myself? Do I want to express myself as feminine, masculine, or other? And then, what is my sex assigned at birth? What am I physically attracted to? There's that orange heart. And then there's the red heart, who I'm emotionally attracted to. And it doesn't mean that we have to get into this fully at this age and stage, but of course, it's on the schoolyard. Kids are talking about it at very far more younger ages. Families are more open to this, that our kids are exposed to this. They might know someone with a different gender expression or, a different gender identity than assigned at birth, who they might be attracted to. So again, here's just another infographic that helps us kind of navigate these questions. Thanks so much for your time. Who's got questions of me? Did I do okay with timing? We're at 45 minutes.
Yes, perfect. That was wonderful, Christine. Thank you so much. We had just one question so far. It was a pragmatic one. Somebody was wondering if they can have a link to the T video. And I think like when we do the blog post, we'll put the video up, and then we usually put the presentation and if there's resources or links, so you'll be able to access it there. And that'll be up probably this weekend or later next week at the latest. So you'll definitely have access to that. Okay, here we've got a question. When and how to discuss pornography with teens?
Well, I think today, don't wait for it. 1 in 10 kids under the age of 10 are exposed to pornography. And so my view of talking about porn and pornography is like, the Marvel characters, they're not real. It's fantasy and it's kind of exciting and it's kind of fun. Pornography can be like that too. It's not real, it's kind of fantasy, and it's not really what happens. It's a movie and stylized version of what sex and sexuality is. So there's another author, and I'll share that. It's called The Birds and the Bees. It's one of my favorite websites, and I'm on a push email for her. Don't be wrong, I know she's going to sell, and it's called The Birds and the Bees and Kids, and it's in the resource network. But this is a woman, I use tons of her resources. And she emails lots of how to do the talks, how to manage these difficult questions, because this is entirely her business. And she's out of the States. And she also has like you can talk, you can call and give her questions, and then she puts it on a webinar and discusses it. Like, I have to admit, if I ever had a question, I would actually reach out to her, because she's a nurse, I think, by trade. And she's got that. But so that's kind of how I view it. It's like Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman. It's not really real, and it's fantasized or stylized. And not that we can't watch, Marvel movies for fun, but is it really how I'm going to be able to live or live up to that expectation? And then how do I integrate it as a part of fantasy possibly? Or is it a hard no? Some people are a hard no. That's a not, we don't watch that or do that in our lifestyle. So that's a real value-based statement on how you want to integrate that into your family. I hope that answers the question.
Went so far as like some role playing with the kids about if someone pulls it up on a phone at school, again, like just practicing ahead of time what you could say and how you could answer questions about what's the harm and just looking, and because those
Totally.
are really hard moments for kids, and they're happening all the time in the schoolyards.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Not if, it's when, for sure.
Someone is asking about sexuality for kids with disabilities.
And that's where those circle of supports can be really useful, right? Again, who's in that purple private circle, that blue hug circle, and so on and so forth. Meaning, who are those people that are, in those circles of support that I would maybe hug versus handshake, because often kids with disabilities have a variability of boundaries, right? Like they might overly hug everybody, which isn't always appropriate. So that circle of security is a for-profit community thing you can actually purchase and take in the community. I don't offer it, but you could maybe Google it. But it's as complex as finding out who's in those circle support and talking about how we treat people, information, and our boundaries in those each circles.
Someone who came late is asking for sharing the recording. Yes, absolutely. We will share the recording on social media and on our website in the next week. Someone is saying so many great messages. I love the cat and dog analogy. Yeah, I love when you remind me of that one too. Thank you both. Yeah, just another minute or two. Any other questions or comments before we leave?
And what I can share, and it's part of the, I know I want to share the next slide. I've just added all the resources. So Teaching Sexual Health is an Alberta website. And that's where I got, age 10, 12 year old, but it's all on there, all the age ranges.
Mm-hmm.
And then healthychildren.org, Media Smarts is one of my favorite websites to talk about sexting, just talk and have some information about media and media health. Mm-hmm. And then that Gender Unicorn. And then this birdandbees.com, that author is the one that I go to as a go-to of resource. She's got all her books. So the resource book, these are ones that I use, that this is so amazing. It's perfectly normal. Those ones are like, oh, that's the encyclopedia. Like if you want to know anything about anything, that's got the whole thing. Versus like
asking the name of that author for Birds and Bees. I'm trying to see it here.
Her name is, and I'm just not, Amy Lang.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Amy Lang is the Birds and the Bees, and kids.com. So I have signed up for her push email, like she's going to sell her latest information and give some free information. But I find her a really valuable and reliable resource of information. And I like her website because she then shares other websites to get information. Yeah. So that's
wonderful. Yeah, maybe I'll pull out those links and resources when we post it to the website. So we've got that in the post and it's easy for people to follow through.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we've run to the end of our questions. So I just want to thank you all again for joining us. We have another webinar in just about a week, and we've got, I think, 5 or 6 of them lined up yet through the fall. So please feel welcome to join us whenever you're able. And thanks again for being with us tonight. And thank you very much, Christine, for that presentation. It was so helpful.
Thanks so much. Take what you need and throw the rest. And good luck.
Good. Thanks so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.